What's up, fight fans? Welcome to the 8th edition of Fight Nerds. I'm Flyin Brian J, and joining me for the first time ever is Rockstarzee. What it do, Rock?
Not much, man. Just good to hop on here and talk some fights with you, man. Should be a good time.
Do you ever go by Rock? Because you know you're Rockstarzee. I kind of like to call you Rock.
No. Just Z.
Right.
Well, I mean, on Xbox Live, some people shorten it to Rock. So yeah, I guess really.
Well, what games do you
the
play
Z,
on?
Though. Rockstar was just like Rockstar just came from like you remember back in like elementary school. I don't know if you guys had this in the States, but like career day where the guy would come in and ask you like, "Hey, what do you want to be when you grow up?" and all this.
Yeah.
People said like mechanic or whatever. I just said Rockstar, and then the dude actually was like, well, that's not a realistic plan and all this, and it became a big thing. So that's kind of where the name came from, but really it's just a screen name, Rockstar. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure you are. I think you are. So you should think you are too.
All right, well, it's official now then.
Anyway, fight fans, what we're going to do here is podcast is going to happen in 3 sections. Number 1 is Geeked Out, what we've kind of freaked out, got excited about in the last 7 days. Part number 2, we're going to go over some recent news. Magana running her mouth, getting punched by the scariest woman in the world. DJ versus TJ, and Yoel, Soldier of God, Romero versus Robert, Bobby Knuckles, Whitaker. And then part number 3, the biggest part of the show, is going to be Walk the Walk, where we are going to say in kilometers this time, because Z here is Canadian, and I don't know how to convert the metric system and whatever. I'm an ignorant American, so I'm going to say mine in kilometers too. We're say how far we would walk in order to be allowed to watch each of the upcoming fights. So I always let you go first, Z. What have you geeked out over recently?
Well, very recently, meaning today, I was able to give away my shift on Sunday, rather. So I'll be able to watch these fights live. That should be a lot of fun. Set the alarm, wake up, cash some bets, see some cage fighting, and really stoked to do that because normally my hours conflict with the UFC. Either I'm going into work halfway through the card or I'm missing the first part of the card. So real stoked to just sit down and watch the card in totality from start to finish, you know?
Yeah. Well, quickly, what is your feelings about this card starting at the ass crack of dawn on a Sunday?
I like it. I don't mind daytime cards. I don't know. To me, it's just I always liked it when they're during the day. I don't really care to wait to night or anything like that. Like it doesn't just doesn't matter to me. I prefer to watch them during the day. And even when I lived out west, like the scheduling was so much better because the card would be done by like 10 p.m. You know what I mean? Instead of basically the main card starting at 10 p.m. here on the East Coast. So the earlier the better, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good point. The only thing that hinders me is I feel just a little bad, not a lot bad, but I feel a little bad about, cracking a cold one at about 8 a.m. Central Time. It makes me feel a little bad, but I do it anyway.
Well, you can watch fights sober. I've done it once or twice myself, you know.
Yeah, I did it in the beginning.
Like a total alky.
Yeah, I watched them completely sober in the beginning, and it's just not the same. Once it's like once you go black, you don't go back. That whole saying. It's like once you watch fights with a brew, there's nothing that can ever beat that. I don't know how to make that rhyme.
Once you watch fights with a brew, you don't know what to do. But as far as going black, man, you're on your own. I've never gone there, so I've never had to come back.
I wouldn't know either, man. A black girl would never look at this guy, But too white. That's probably racist. I apologize, but I've never been there, nonetheless. So of course, my geeked out in the past 7 days, of course, has to do with brewing. The last episode I did was with the clown kid, Andrew Lawrence, and I said that my geeked out then was that I was talking to some brewers from my area, that they were going to invite me out to do a brew day with them. So I got invited to brew a commercial batch, and I told them I like one of their beers, but I wanted to tweak it just a skosh. Z and I were talking about before, he doesn't know what a skosh is, and he asked me what the origin was, and I think I just made it up. I don't know. Skosh means a little.
I'll start using it, man. We perpetuate that word.
Yeah, I'm going to tweet it out right now. That's all I'm going to say. It's just skosh, and nobody will understand what I'm saying. But
because they're watching.
Yeah. But so I told them that I wanted to improve on one of their beers that they distribute throughout the state of Nebraska. But I told them that in order to do that, I need the recipe. So actually, just like 2 days ago, the brewer that made the recipes for the beers that I like that they make, he sent me the recipes with like everything it would possibly take for me to brew that thing at my house, down to the yeast. I'm not allowed to share it, but that's fucking cool, and I've been geeking out about that ever since.
You got the trade secrets then.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and also I've been geeking out. I'm getting a kegerator on Wednesday, so that's fucking cool. So I've been Googling how to set that thing up and how to carbonate my beer and all that shit. So that's real fun.
Right on, man. It's like you got the recipe to Coca-Cola, or you got the spices to KFC, you know?
Pretty much.
Secrets.
Only better, because this will get you drunk. So, I mean, if I were 11, sure, yeah, give me the recipe to Coca-Cola. But as a 28-year-old, you give me a recipe for a beer that I love, that I've paid many dollars to drink. Now you give me the recipe. Thank you so much.
It'll be fun to compare the home brew to the official product, you know? See how close you can get it.
Yeah, well, I made one of them already, and it's done fermenting. I just dry hopped it. It's in my closet, which is nearby, and I want to keg it when my kegerator gets here. And I already tasted the uncarbonated, undry hopped wort, and it's not as good for sure. So it's going to take me a couple of times before I can kind of hone that in. Once I hone it in, though, I'm going to take it up to them and then like be like, which one is yours?
Yeah.
And they're gonna be like,
bet them on it.
I have no idea which one. I'm gonna give them a triangle test. Yeah, like 3-card monte. Which one's yours? And then they're like,
exactly.
Try them all. Like, we have no idea. They're all great. I'm like, that's fun.
But really, your home brew is still at home, and you're just trying to cash that bag. I'm on to you, Flyin Brian.
Stacking the deck. No, they're all 3 mine actually. No.
Stacking the deck. Good times.
Either way, I'm gonna drink some free beer, and it's a great time. It's cool. I read recently how to make money as a home brewer. Like, it's tough to turn your home brew into a commercial brewery. The best way to start making money is to be a guy that is a recipe consultant for upstart breweries. I want to do that.
So then how do the upstart breweries make money? Like, you mean like for upstart commercial breweries?
Right. Commercial on any level. Dude, there are more than 4,000 craft breweries in the country, and just in the last year, there have been 5 that have been added to where I live within a 100-mile radius.
Wow. I heard in England, like, one of the things back in the day, the reason they have so many pubs now is because like each pub would have its own beer, like it would make its own beer. And I always thought that was really cool. Like, you go to different pubs and get actually different drinks instead of just going around buying the same old crap no matter where you are. So yeah, it's a cool industry, man. I got to admit, I'm not as big a beer nerd as you are. I enjoy beer, but it's definitely not something I'm passionate about or anything. But yeah, it's real cool that you're into that, and it's cool that it's so many different custom products out there.
Yeah, it's super cool. That reminds me of something. So if you look up the definition for nerd in the dictionary, it's not flattering at all. But Z, would you consider yourself a fight nerd?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, to me, it's just like if you're into something like to a much bigger degree than like the people around you or the average fans of whatever it is, then that constitutes you as a nerd. So if you're like, really, it means you're not to call myself an expert, but an expert in something, you know what I mean? Or at least you have more expertise in some field than the average person. That's at least how I take it. It's not really a negative thing in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. The definition in the dictionary is like ugly, unattractive, unathletic, not fashionable, like all that stuff. But I see it as a synonym to, like, fight nerd is a synonym to hardcore MMA fan.
Yeah, for sure. And also that describes everything that I am. So I guess I am a fight nerd too,
And so are all of you watching there at home. You guys are fight nerds as well. Join the team, #fight nerds. But this team, last time that Chris Weidman was like, this is your last invitation to join the team, he got wrecked 3 times after that. So we're not going to get wrecked. It is. The last time he said, he was like, "This is your last chance to join the team." It was after he beat Vitor Belfort, and then he's been wrecked 3 times in a row. I'm glad I didn't join that team.
Yes, he has. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let's move into the next section of the podcast. Google Hangouts used to have transition sounds that you could just click and it'd be like, next section. They took them away like last month.
That's all right, because you had the transition sound on lock right there.
Yeah, let's go into some fight news. Christine Cyborg Justino punched Angela Magana in the fucking face because Magana shows her booty on the interwebs and sometimes says that Cyborg has a dick in similar conversations on the internet. Cyborg confronted her at the UFC Fighters Retreat, and now Magana is pressing charges, and she's also going to sue Cyborg. What do you think about this whole ordeal?
Is there any video on that other than the one that doesn't really show it? Because I saw one clip where like there was someone in the way when what did. So do we have any like real footage of it?
I don't believe we do. I've scoured the interwebs a little bit, and that's the only one that I can find.
Okay. So in my opinion, it's like no matter what somebody says, you don't have a right to assault them unless you feel physically threatened yourself. And so without seeing the tape, I don't know if Angela was really Cyborg. And I don't really think she could, to be honest. So in that regard, it's way out of line for Cyborg to hit her. Even if she's a professional fighter, she fights at a lower weight class. This is not sanctioned, so it's definitely assault on that level. But what I will say about the UFC brass or like the professional UFC, I think it's real bad for them to slander Cyborg in any way like that, because that needs to remain a professional relationship, right? So you can't have Dana White laughing at Joe Rogan's jokes that she's got a dick and all this. Although I don't really care if anybody says that stuff, though. You know what I mean? So it's a weird thing with like many moving pieces. But as far as like, is Cyborg in the wrong for hitting Magana? I think so, unless she was physically threatening her, like getting in her face or something, like with Kevin Lee and Michael Chiesa, with Kevin Lee cracking Chiesa because he was charging him. You know what I mean? If somebody charges me, I'm gonna hit you. But like if you talk shit on me, I'll laugh it off. I'm not gonna physically impose myself on you. You know what I mean? So that's just my take on it. But I don't think Cyborg was in the right at all to hit her, unless she was threatened.
Definitely not in the right. Definitely not in the right. But like, you don't care about people saying that stuff about Cyborg. I kind of don't care that Cyborg punched Magana, because I think Magana's a douche. And this is crazy because there's one thing that I agree with Magana on, and that is, she said, when have you ever seen an altercation like this happen outside of a UFC press conference? You mentioned Chiesa and Kevin Lee. Yes, that was uncalled for. That whole thing was cringeworthy and awkward, I thought. But beyond that, they're going to use that to sell tickets. That's going to be used for promotional value. This, where the only camera on it was it Beck Rawlings with her phone with somebody standing in front of her. You can't use that for any promotional way. It's bad.
Not even a fight. Like, it's not even a fight that can happen because there's like a huge weight disparity, right?
There's 30 pounds between them in their weight classes, and then of course Cyborg struggles to make $145. So there's, in their walk around weight, we're talking probably $170 versus $125.
Yeah. I mean, as far as like comparing it to a press conference, though, like you can't really punch people at a press conference either. Like, you're not supposed to get physical at the press conference either. You know what I mean? Although at least it's a UFC official thing, and there's people to get in the middle and all that. So yeah, to be honest with you, I don't really care too much about it. Like, I don't really concern myself with the outside drama and all that. But as far as I'm concerned, I think Cyborg is in the wrong. But if I'm Angela Magana, I'm not pressing charges. You know what I mean? Like, it's so hard when we didn't see the altercation. Because if Cyborg just ran up and was like, "You bitch, crack," that's like, what the hell, you know? But if they were going back and forth, chirping each other, getting in the face, and then there's a punch thrown, come on, you put yourself in that situation. So you really got to see the tape. I feel like I have to see the tape before I make a judgment on it.
Yeah, good point. Don't poke the bear. And from the looks of that video at the very beginning, they're standing like, almost chest to chest, talking shit to each other. If you don't want to get hit by
Yeah,
Cyborg, probably don't talk shit to her face.
exactly. And don't get in her face. You know what I mean? Like, there's ways to like quell the situation. There's ways to say, look, I was just talking shit. Calm down. Sorry about that. Whatever. But like, if Angela was going back at her, and then they get close, they get heated. Shit happens.
Yeah. So I think we agree, Cyborg in the wrong. Don't care too much about it, but since it's in the news, we got to touch on it. Now, there's something that I think we'll both care about. I honestly don't care too much about it, but it's also big news. Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. Well, first, TJ Dillashaw versus Cody No Love Garbrandt was supposed to happen at UFC 213. Cody No Love has a back injury, so he had to pull out. Now, TJ wants to fight Demetrius Johnson. Dana White says that's the fight that should happen. Demetrius says, no effing way, get in line, TJ. And he's probably going to take Ray Borg. So it's this whole drama. What are your takeaways from that? What fight do you want to see?
Well, that's a two-layered question, right? My takeaways from it are, I like that Demetrius is trying to preserve the order of the UFC in the sense that, like, look, if you get a title shot, you should fight in that division first at least. You know what I mean? Unless it's a super fight. But it's also very different for TJ dropping a weight class and getting a title shot as opposed to somebody moving up and getting a weight class. Like people compare this to Conor, and it's like, well, Conor's the champion. Conor moved up. Conor can clearly make the weight. You know what I mean? Because he's moving up in weight class. So that's a little bit of a different issue in my opinion, and it's like a champ versus champ. Don't want to get into that though. Totally different situation in my opinion. But with DJ and TJ, obviously that's the fight I would rather see. That's a banging fight. In my opinion, that's a super fight between two guys who are extremely entertaining, and just breaking down the stylistic matchup, how DJ would deal with the striking of TJ. He could be so mobile. He could be in and out. He could all the way in, all the way out type style that I love to see him use. So that for sure is the fight I would rather see. But this idea that DJ is scared of TJ is absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. Like, he's a professional cage fighter. He's a world champion cage fighter. Fight people. He fought at 135 in the past. So that's just totally ridiculous to me. But what's not ridiculous is the idea that TJ, or DJ rather, wants to preserve the order of the UFC. And I'd like to see much more order. Like, I think once you get to like the top 8, I think there should be a real structured, like, okay, if you beat him, you move to the winner of these two, and it's almost like a mini tournament. Maybe it could be even the top 4, and they just keep doing like little 4-man tournaments, not one night tournaments or anything, but like some kind of, okay, I beat this guy, then I get a title shot. You know what I mean? The way it is now and the way it has been in the past, it's so chaotic and just based on matchmaking that sometimes you get guys who get title shots who don't deserve them. Sometimes you get guys who deserve a title shot, but for whatever reason, they're not getting one. Either they're not drawing the views, or perhaps they've lost to the champion before. Like, realistically, I don't think Benavidez should be prevented from getting a title shot just because he's lost to DJ in the past. If he earns his way up to the title shot and he's the number 1 contender, then I think run it back, let him have another chance at it. So a long-winded answer there, I guess, but my opinion is I don't think DJ's scared. I'd like the UFC to preserve the type of, earning a title shot should be systematic, and there should be a metric to determine the title contender. But the fight I want to see is TJ versus DJ. So, it's many different answers, but that's my take on the whole situation.
Yeah, I wanted all those different answers, and I think that you're right on all fronts. Of course, DJ versus TJ is the fight that I want to see. But what happens if it's for a belt and TJ comes in and can't make weight, or he has a Renan Barão situation where he hits his head on a bathtub? We don't have the fight anymore, and we look forward to it for a long time. And it kind of is a super fight. For us fight nerds, it's a super fight, but it's not really, because it's not for a belt. It's not for 2 belts. It's not 2 champions. And
let me jump in there. Let me jump in there real quick, because you say it's not for a belt. And if we're talking about super fights, in my opinion, what I want to see in super fights is the 2 champs meet in the middle and then return to their weight class. So you don't get these guys racking up, multiple belts and holding up divisions, or you get a situation like Conor where he's the featherweight champ, he's the lightweight champ, but they take away the belt from him at featherweight because he's not going to be there anymore. But he's the lineal champion. So in my opinion, it would just be less messy if they just met in the middle for a super fight, handle their business, then go back to their separate divisions. But sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, that's cool. I like that. Well, let's do that because I'm all in on that. And Demetrius said one time that if TJ wants a belt, the fight isn't happening, but he's interested in talking about the fight if it's not for a belt. And of course, I want to see that fight. Yep, I like that idea. Tweet that out, Z. Let's tweet that out. 130 DJ versus TJ, UFC 214. Let's make it happen.
Then the record's not in jeopardy. You still get the super fight. TJ has a more likely chance of making the weight.
I like it a lot.
UFC now.
And what you were talking about with a systematic way to get title shots, that used to be that way. It was basically like a perpetual ladder bracket.
The tournament.
If number 10 beats number 9, guess what? He's number 9 now, and number 9 is number 10, and so on and so forth. And that's just how it happens. You don't even have to have it beat the top 8. It's just you could have 25. 25 beats number 14. Whoop. 25 is now 14.
Yeah.
And that's how you earn title shots. And I don't like this shit where GSP coming in a division he's never competed, getting a title shot after being away for a super long time. And so I guess in the same way, I wouldn't like TJ getting that shot, especially a weight class lower, because you said it, we don't know if he's going to make the weight. It would suck to have another fight pulled out from under us. He hasn't earned it. What if, well, he already destroyed John Lineker. I would like Ray Borg versus TJ Dillashaw if TJ can make 125 for a number 1 contender fight.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah. I really want some type of, like you said, like predetermined matches in the sense that, like, whatever it is, like number 6 always fights number 7 and number 5 always fights number 4, or yada yada. You know what I mean? Like, I would like that, so that once we have like some kind of ranking, then it just let it happen. Let the matches fall into place, you know. And you'd have guys falling out, you'd have guys coming in, because a lot of the times, like guys like Johnny Hendricks, or guys like there's no names coming to mind right now, like Matt Brown, you know, he loses a lot of fights, but people love to see him. He's a household name, so he gets put in these ranking positions that it's like, okay, you're not really that good. You know what I mean? Like, you're not. There are guys ranked lower than you who are better. Gegard Mousasi had a great quote. He goes, I'm not really sure why these guys are ranked ahead of me, because if I'm gonna fight them, I'm gonna be the favorite. So, like, his idea of, like,
that was fuck no, that was an awesome impression, man. That was good. It was good.
Thanks, man. But it's like he's right though. Like, how is Vitor ranked above him when Gegard's a huge favorite when the fight is booked? You know what I mean? Like, that's what shows you what's what, or what the real opinion of the population is, as opposed to just the population of a few select media members who, let's be honest, they're not even the real media members. It's not the Luke Thomas, the Robin Blacks making the rankings. If there was a real panel of, like, experts and analysts who people all respect making the rankings, that's, at least there'd be some value to that, you know?
You know, do you follow college football in the States at all? Are you aware with, like, the Associated Press poll?
I'm just a fight fan. I'm not a sports fan.
Okay. Well, yeah, me too, but I followed football when I was a kid. Anyway, there's 2 different polls. We could have the UFC's fake fucking poll, and let's also make, like, a legitimate media poll. Why has this not happened yet?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I remember the UFC before there was rankings, and realistically, like, I thought shit got done, you know, like did John Fitch come in under the radar and rack up, you know, whatever it was, 7 wins. But for the most part, I felt like, you know, the right guys were getting the title shots, maybe because it was just on a smaller scale. There was fewer fighters in total. But yeah, this idea of, like, the media making the rankings is, I don't know. I'm not a fan of it.
Well, I'm a fan of the legitimate media, the Ariel Helwanis, Robin Black, Luke Thomas, Jeremy Botter, all those guys. Whoever works for the UFC should not be making these rankings, because Anderson Silva, my favorite fighter of all time, the dude he doesn't deserve to be wherever he is. I don't know where he is exactly, but I know he's too fucking high.
Hey, Volkan Ozdemir is ranked number 5. So, come on, you know what I mean? What is going on?
Okay, Anderson Silva's number 7. I mean, I guess. Man, I guess. Fucking, because he did technically beat Derek Brunson, who's number 8. Yeah, that's weird. But yeah, Volkan Ozdemir. Mauricio Shogun Rua at number 4. I guess he did.
It is a shallow division. You gotta
Yeah.
admit it's a shallow division, but I agree that's weird. I just think the idea that the rankings that in turn affect the matchmaking to some degree, right? They're based on just opinions. I'd rather have a legitimate metric, like let's say number of wins in the UFC, win-loss ratio in the UFC, number of finishes in the UFC, things like that. Now, the only counter or the main counter argument I get back when I present this idea is, well, then you'd get guys with padded records. But my opinion is, it's still, the matchmakers are still making the matches. You know what I mean? And you're still got to fight ranked guys. And worst case scenario, you get, two contenders with padded records who eventually fight for the title anyway. And that would be pretty cool, in my opinion. If you have a guy like let's say Whitaker racks up 3 more wins against lower level competition. Yoel racks up 2 more wins against lower level competition. And then they both end up fighting for titles. Like that'd be cool, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Because then you build up the title shots. And then the title really means something.
If Joe Silva, well, not Joe Silva, but if Sean Shelby's still making the matches, then we're not getting padded records because he's making the matches. So it's just, then you let the finishes and let the victories, let the records fall where they may. And then that's how the rankings are built. I like it. And you could pair that with a human put in input. You get Luke Thomas saying who he thinks is better.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Or you could pair it with if the rankings are based on your UFC record for whatever, like I said, wins, number of fights, win-loss ratio, all this, finish ratio. Then you have number 10 always fights number 9. So then it's just boom, you know what I mean? They fight. But the other problem is you might get guys with a lot of rematches. But in my opinion, it's let's just play it out. If 2 guys have to fight 4 times in their career, that's how they're matched up. Hey, that's how they're matched up, In my opinion, it would provide more legitimacy. It would provide more legitimacy to the sport. Like the NHL playoffs, the NFL playoffs, they're based on actual stats throughout the season. It's not just we want to see these 2 teams play, so we'll put them together first. It's no, he's the first ranked seed, he's last, so they're fighting. They're playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The only flaw with that is they start every season 0-0, where this is their entire life. You can't start over at the beginning of the season. But yeah, I get the general premise of the whole thing, and I like it. I think we should go that way. I want more consistency with who gets these fights. And then even if somebody were to, let's say, number 2 or number 1 contender, however you want to do it, number 1 contender or number 2, if we're going 1 through whatever instead of C through whatever, that guy falls out for an injury. And then they're just okay, champion is staying on this card. 2 through 7, who wants this fight? And it's only number 7 takes it. Then,
or just go, okay, number 2, can you fight? Yes, no. Okay, number 3, can you fight? Yes, no, and just keep going down.
Right. Exactly.
Some order. Let's bring order to the UFC, Flyin Brian.
So on the same vein, we kind of got off on DJ versus TJ, but we're in a similar place. Now I want to talk about Yoel, Soldier of God, Romero versus Robert Bobby Knuckles Whitaker. Was recently announced because we don't know when the fuck Michael Bisping is ever going to fight, and also a little bit because TJ versus Garbrandt got pulled out, so this fight is coming in, going to save it a little bit, I guess, even though it's the co-main event. But Yoel versus Bobby Knuckles, interim title, but this time I think it's the real title. It's not interim, and it's one of the only interims in the history of time that needs to be made. You disagree?
I disagree because for the same reason that I think Conor is still the featherweight champion, I think Michael's still the middleweight champion. I think it's a lineal thing. If you beat the champ, you're the champ. And until
but what if the champion refuses to fight, like Mike is?
He's still the lineal champion. You know what I mean? And I don't like this refusing to fight thing because Mike's injured, right? He's injured, so he's not gonna fight no matter who the opponent is right now. You know what I mean? Unless
he said he would fight GSP in July,
but he won't. But he can't. And at the same time, he said he won't fight Yoel in July.
Right.
Yeah, then he should be stripped. But again, he's still the lineal champion. In my opinion, first of all, both those guys, Yoel and Whitaker, both have been on the easy money campaign. They're big dogs that always come through. They're always the dogs and they always win. It's awesome betting on those guys. So it's going to be hard to pick a winner there. Although early lean, I'm leaning with Whitaker. But yeah, I say making this an interim title, I don't care. It means nothing to me. Like, why don't they just fight in a 5-round fight? Because main events are 5 rounds now anyway. So like, have them fight, have it 5 rounds, and then, you know, the winner is the next title challenger. Sorry?
No, the winner gets Mike. I mean, but you go back to your quote from.
What does the interim title mean?
Go back to your quote from Musasi about how I would be favored over these guys. Why am I ranked below them? Wouldn't you pick both Yoel and Bobby Knuckles over Mike?
Yeah, but that's where the champion. That's how the champion's different from the contenders, because it's undisputable, right? He's beaten the best guy in the world. He knocked out Luke Rockhold. That's real. I lost on that bet. Pretty big, but he did that. You know what I mean? So he can't be denied that. Now the other problem is, though, the best fighter out of the contenders should always fight for the title, and that's not the case. We saw that with Dan Henderson getting the shot. I love Hendo, and I think it was a fairy tale ending to a legendary career, almost a fairy tale ending to a legendary career. But the bottom line is he didn't deserve the title shot there. Like, I know it was weird because some people were injured and suspended and tied up and all this, but I really like the idea of preserving the title for the best guy that you can present. Fights the champ. The champ has to accept the fight, and that's why the title means something. But handing out belts like this left and right, like Max versus Aldo, 2 guys with belts, and in my opinion, neither are the champion. Like, it muddies the waters so much. It waters everything down. I don't like it.
Well, this is neat. I normally don't disagree with people, but this time I have to, Z. I think that this is the only legitimate interim title that really has ever been made, other than the one where Frank Mir got injured in a motorcycle accident, and so there was an interim there. Where wasn't it Big Nog who was the interim champion?
Mir was stripped, wasn't he? Mir was straight stripped.
Yeah,
and then Randy was the champ, and then I think Randy fought, I believe it was Sylvia. And then but then Minotauro, when he submitted Tim Sylvia with a guillotine, the first UFC I ever watched live, by the way, he became the interim champ because Randy had these contract disputes. And I remember right away, I was like, oh, sweet. Big Nog's the champ now. And then I go on the website and I see old man Couture up there. And I'm like, wait a minute. So what's going on? Like, why are there 2 champions? So right away, I was like, this is weird that there's 2 champions in the same division. So I just don't.
Yeah, I do dislike interim belts, especially the one where you said Jose versus Max, because, I mean, Mystic Mac is still here and he's still able to perform. And I think he might still be able to make 145 pounds. But, man, I don't like that. Mike was pulling. Go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say he's never missed weight. And with Aldo and Max, for Max's belt especially, like, what is that? Like, because in my opinion, Aldo is the clear number 2 in that division if Conor's number 1, because nobody else has ever beaten Aldo, right, in the UFC. So he's just like, that interim belt actually made sense because he's like the placeholder while McGregor is no longer fighting in the division. I understand it, but I still consider McGregor the champ. So, but the Max belt is just like, what are we doing, you know?
Right, yeah, I hate that one as well. But this one, where Big Mike basically refused to fight Yoel, he just kept saying he wouldn't fight Yoel because Yoel's a steroid abuser. But he was pulling the who's the 145-pound champion? The fuck's her name?
145? Aldo, Max, Conor?
No, the female. We have a 145-pound female champion, right?
Oh, the Dutch girl, the Dutch lady, Iron Lady.
Yeah. Jermaine Darandami, yeah. So she was saying that she would give Holly Holm a rematch right fucking now. But if we want to put Cyborg in there, all of a sudden her hand is hurt. Like, what? What? You'll fight Holly, but if it's Cyborg, you're injured? Mike's doing the same thing. He's like, I will fight GSP in July. If it's not him, I need to have surgery. It's like, something's fishy, bro.
That's a good point. That is a good point. There should be like there should be a green light where it's like, is this fighter's on the roster? Are they good to go? Yes or no? Before any kind of matchmaking is made. Like, oh, he's good to go? Put him in. Like, I definitely don't like that the champion can refuse a fight. The champion should have no control over matchmaking and just be presented the number one contender. And like, you got to keep beating the best person that the UFC can put up to fight you.
Right. And right now, that is, I mean, it was clearly Yoel Romero before Robert Whittaker stomped all over Jacare, and now it's kind of up for question. So I'm glad we got this fight happening. But before Bobby Knuckles tooled on Jacare, it was definitely Yoel. And I wanted to see that. And I thought that Yoel was probably the best middleweight in the world. I still think that, even though I'm with you, I'm leaning Whittaker a little bit because of the matchup there. I don't know if Yoel can handle the pace, the wrestling of Bobby Knuckles. And, Yoel kind of takes the first 2 rounds off.
The wrestling? Oh, he can handle the wrestling. It's them hands. Like Yoel's got to worry about them hands, No,
I know, but Yoel's not going to be able to get Bobby Knuckles down.
You don't think so? That's where the fight really takes place, in my opinion. That's just such a great fight all around, because Yoel is so explosive in the things he does and the angles and the weird shots. And with Yoel, I think the reason he's always the dog is because he always looks tired, but he's actually never tired. Or it's like he drains quick, but then his gas tank comes back instantly. And that's why when he throws water on himself or when he's doing all this stuff, it's so valuable to him because he recovers so quick, But yeah, I think it's a great fight, and I think you're right. I think Yoel is the number one contender, and it's real. I don't like the fact that Michael kind of refused that fight and opted for a different fight. So I see your point, and it's a good one. That this is the time for an interim champ, because the real champ isn't willing to take a fight.
At the same time, I have to play devil's advocate on myself, because I can't really fault Mike, because who's going to make you more money, GSP or Yoel Romero? In which fight are you more likely to get your head exploded like a watermelon? I mean, I'm taking GSP too.
Yeah. But I now I'm arguing for your side, man. It's like, I don't think the champ should be able to deny a contender, and that's kind of what he did. Like, he can't opt for a fight. Like, this is why we need a metric to determine who the title challenger is. It should be clear, and you should be able to forecast a couple steps ahead. Okay, if he beats him, then he's fighting him, so he's going to beat him. You know what I mean?
What if Mike is actually injured and I'm just hating on him for saying he's injured? What if he's really injured?
We're a couple what is it? Monday quarterbacks or whatever, like backseat drivers telling a fighter to take a fight,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if he's really injured. I wanted him to take the Yoel fight, and I was a little bit salty that GSP was getting this title shot coming off a 2-year layoff, never fought in the division, not an exciting fighter, yada yada.
Hey, bud, he brings the rain.
Yeah, he used to be fun until later. Anyway, so I think that covers it on news. We spent quite a bit of time. That's pretty neat, Z. Let's go into Walk the Walk. I need some transition music. You want to give it to me?
Nope. No, let's just jump into it, man. I'm not beatboxing on this podcast.
You're not a beatboxer? I'm just going to snap a few fingers. Walk the walk. Yeah, that was good. I liked it. Okay, so what we're going to do...
No need for your seductive voice.
Oh, yeah. What? That was my seductive voice? Man, often. Let's start at the bottom of this card. We're going to work our way to the top because we want to end with a bang. We're starting at the bottom with Marcin Held versus Damir Hadzovic. Moving our way to the top, Alexander the Mauler Gustafsson versus Glover the Rainbow Teixeira. What do you think of that nickname?
I've heard you say that before. Where'd it come from?
I made it up.
Over the rainbow. I got.
That's hilarious. Tricky, I hope it sticks. Like somebody sent in Bobby Knuckles to the Co-Main Event podcast. I want to submit Glover the Rainbow.
Mississippi Mean was another one. I think Anik came up with that for Jason Knight.
Yeah, that dude's got like 3 nicknames, Jason Knight. So, all right, let's go into this card. Tell me in kilometers, how far you would walk in order to be allowed to watch Marcin Held versus Damir Hadzovic.
I've got a lot of friends betting on Damir Hadzovic here, so I'd walk 2K. I'd walk 2K to cheer them on, and then hopefully they cash their bets. And honestly, where the line's at, Demir is tempting me too to bet on, because that's a pretty interesting, intriguing fight where I think Demir is just going to box him up on the feet. But if Held gets him down and subs him, I think Held is levels above Demir in jiu-jitsu, but my eye is not the best for who is better on the ground. So it's a real intriguing fight for me. I'll say 2K.
Whoa, man. I think you're going to have to reel it in. If you're saying 2K on the first fight of the night, you're going to end up walking like 27K to watch this fight.
Hey, I'm a fight nerd, man. Hey, I'm a fight nerd, and I don't actually have to walk these distances. So
I have actually walked the distance I've said before in order to watch. So I've walked, let's see, 2 times ago, I walked 4.65 miles, which I got my unit converter up. I'll tell you how far that is in Canadian distance.
Canadian
distance. 7.5 kilometers I walked in order to be able to watch. I forget which fight card it is, but dude, if you're walking 2 for the first one, that is going to be a lot.
Get your ass off the couch and do some hiking, bud. Quit being lazy, Brian.
I don't have hiking here, man. This is called walking around.
And I'm going to race you, too. I want to compare time.
Well, you know what? I'm going to walk 0.1 kilometer. You're going to walk 2. I think I'll be done before you.
I'll use a 1 to 10 scale, though. How about that? That's the scale I'm using, 1 kilometer to 10 kilometers apiece.
Let's just use a 1 to 10 scale without it being distance, because I'm not walking this huge distance. So, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for this matchup? Just pure excited as a fight fan to watch it. For the match.
For Held and Demir? Held Demir?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd say 4. I think it's a good curtain jerker. Held's back against the wall. Demir had a tough fight in his first outing, but I mean, everybody loses to Tysonov, so I'm intrigued by this fight. I'm not a guy who needs this star power. I look at matchups and I'm like, ooh, they're gonna go into a cage and combat each other. I'm intrigued by that. That's exciting to me. So
I like it. You had a 4. I'm at a 2. I do think it's going to be a fun fight. On the feet, you mentioned that Demir got finished by Tysonov, but right before he got finished, he landed a pretty sweet right hand. And well, you don't think he landed that sweet right hand?
He landed it, but it's because Tysonov was whooping his ass so bad. He's like, let me just go for this little spinning back kick. Threw himself off balance a little bit, got clipped, off balance, wobbled back to it. I mean, that's the werewolf of Chechnya that right there. He's not getting wobbled. He's not getting this idea that Maribek has this chin issue. I can't wait to bet against that, because people think he's chinny. I don't think he's chinny in the least bit. I think he's a savage. So the fact that Demir lost to Tysonov to me is like, yeah, okay, I still want to see what you bring to the table.
Right, and Tysonov is high caliber. Marcin, we thought he was high caliber when he came in, but he's lost to 2 names, but old dudes. You're losing to Diego Sanchez, and he lost to Diego Sanchez by having a horrible fight IQ. Going in there, he was beating Diego on the feet, then decides to wrestle, where that's the only place Diego had a fucking chance, but he decided to do it anyway. I don't like his fight IQ.
I think he gassed out at altitude, man. Like, think about that. Your UFC debut at altitude versus a big name, a somewhat imposing figure as far as like the energy that he brings to the cage in Diego Sanchez. And I got to give a quick shout out to my boy Will Martin. He called that fight to a T, and he cashed big on Diego Sanchez there. So props to you, man. That was a good read. But really, I just think it was a terrible matchup in your debut. At altitude versus Diego, the cardio king. So I mean, I can kind of forgive him for that. And then the Lozon fight was close, so this is just interesting to me.
Moving on to the next one, we've got Darren Till versus Jessen Ayari. Darren Till, undefeated in his last fight, went to a draw. Jessen Ayari, man, he's got the dad bod happening. I'm guessing that let me guess how excited you are for this one. You're at like a 4.2 on this one for excitement level.
10.
No, bullshit. 10. I call bullshit.
10, but you have no idea how excited I am. I am stoked for the return of Darren Till. Darren Till he's the perfect striker for MMA, in my opinion. A long, powerful southpaw Muay Thai striker, crisp left cross, huge left body kick. This kid oozes confidence. He's so young. He's so assured of himself, like has a Muay Thai career dating back to when he was 12 years old. This dude, people are sleeping on this dude. And Jessin Ayari, I just think he's not near the level of Darren Till. So this is going to be really fun. It's going to be really fun to watch Darren Till knock the piss out of Jessin Ayari. I've heard some people that I respect, Shaq from Half the Battle. I know you used to do a show with Dan Levy there, so that's cool. But his idea was that Jessin's going to be able to evade and win a greasy split decision, but I don't think so at all, because Darren Till is not a guy to chase his opponent. He stands tall and he draws you in. He'll feint and draw you into counter. So I think that it's going to be an awesome knockout, and I'm really, really stoked to see it happen.
I'm excited. I'm definitely not a 10 of excitement, but I am excited because I do think Darren Till gets a knockout. It's going to be super fun in that regard. We're going to see a finish. Once again, I'm keeping myself reserved on these lower fights. I'm trying to build a little suspense for the main event, for that sensual eruption. Huh? No, I'm kidding. That was gross.
Oh, you fit in a bus?
Yeah, I'm like Snoop Dogg, bro. I got brought to the UFC retreat, and people are mad that they paid me to be there. But yeah, man, they got to give that slow build. You can't just blow your load at the beginning of the fight with a 10 on the second fight of the night happening down there on the Fight Pass prelims.
I'm blowing my load second fight on the prelims, and then it's going to be smokes and lay back the rest of the day.
Okay.
I'm not smoking about it.
I like it, man, but I'm gonna stick with the 3. Just a little bit more excited than the last one, but the reason is I do think we see a finish. He's fought jobbers who in his last 2 wins, his last 2 finishes, his opponent's combined record is 13-12, and they're on a combined 7-fight losing streak. He doesn't look athletic. Nothing about him is impressive. I think that Darren Till is going to clean his clock, man. Speaking of guys who don't look very impressive, no, these guys look super impressive, both of them. Bojan Velickovic and Nico Musoki. Dude, I would guess if you were going to you were a 10 on the last one, you'd be like a 13 on this fight. This is the first fight on the FS1 prelims, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern time, 10 a.m. where I'm from. Super fun fight. So you're at a 20 then?
No. This, I couldn't give a shit about this fight. This is a 1. I don't care about this fight. I think this is a pitter-patter striking affair for the most part. Velickovic can play the point fighter game very well, but it's just, I just don't have any real, I'll watch it. It's going to be fun to watch these guys fight, but from my perspective, you got Nico Musoki coming in, who's probably a higher level fighter, higher level skill set, fought at a higher level, but with such a huge layoff. And since he last fought, a lot of changes in the sport, USADA, yada yada. But I mean, Bojan is also kind of, I got the question, skeptical hippo eyes for both these guys. So for me, and you got to remember too, I'm a gambler. So I'm looking for fights to bet on. That's where my excitement level comes from. And I don't. My money is so far away from this fight. I don't care about it.
Man, me as just a pure enthusiast for striking matchups. I know Bojan says he's coming in with a well-rounded skill set, and he might look for some takedowns. Point fight, Nico, like you said. I think this fight's going to happen on the feet, and I think it's going to be super exciting for the decision. But I would be picking clearly Nico Musoki if it wasn't for that layoff. Is he the guy? No, there's somebody coming up. Or was it Musoki? Somebody coming up on this card has never worn Reebok trunks.
Nico.
Yeah, that's crazy. Never worn Reebok trunks. That's a long time to be out from the octagon. And if you say you've got those hippo eyes, evidently. I taught you
skeptical hippo.
Skeptical hippo. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen those at the zoo, man. They're real neat.
Looking at you sideways,
Okay, yeah, looking. So if he was doing some of that, taking some extra supplements, some extra vitamins, maybe he comes in here looking shitty. Maybe Bojan wins a point fighting decision. But basically, we're going to see a kickboxing match inside of the octagon. A couple of dudes that are ripped out of their minds. I'm in on it.
Fair point. Fair point.
Reza Madadi, Mad Dog versus Joaquim, Neto, BJJ, Silva. I think this is – oh, I got to write down what we picked for excitement level in the last one. I'm going with a – I'm going to stick with a 4. No, I'm sticking with a 3 with my last one. You went with a 1. This fight could be – gosh, it could be a 5 for me. It could be a 1, basically depending on who's winning the fight. If Reza Madadi's winning the fight, it's looking like a 1. It's looking a little bit like Jared Rochalt's happening in here. If Neto BJJ is winning, then it's fucking exciting. Then we're at a 5.
I'm pretty excited for this. I think this is a good scrap. I like the way they match up. I like the way I think they match up on the feet where Reza is going to be looking for the bigger shots, but Neto has the more consistent, basic, fundamentally sound Muay Thai. Very good shot selection too. So I like what I'm predicting is they're going to be striking and Neto's going to be winning the long game, but Reza has that opportunity to land a bomb. And then also it's Reza's probably going to try to grind like you alluded to, but Silva has amazing takedown defense. So that's interesting again. And then the ground game, I think Reza wins there. So it's all interesting stuff. But what I will say is if there was a bet on what stare down will be the best, I would bet a lot of money that this is going to be the best stare down at weigh-ins. They both have awesome angry faces. They're just both super, they love to try to intimidate their opponents. So it's going to be real fun. It's going to be a fun stare down, man. I guarantee that.
Oh, so what a way to gauge a fight.
It's true, man. But I'll say I'm a 5. I think this is a good scrap. I say this is a 5.
Man, what if the stare down doesn't live up to your expectations? Does it go to a 4?
I won't even watch the card.
Oh, okay, so a lot writing on this face-off here. Let me just jot that down real quick.
I guarantee, man, it's gonna be. Reza always it goes nuts, but Neto has an awesome angry face too. Trust me.
All right, I just put a note in that you're super excited about the face-off, and if it's not good, you're not watching it. So I'll be watching the face-offs real close because I want you to watch this card. I really do. So I'm hoping that they patience.
Thanks, man.
I'm going to go with a 3 again. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going with the average. Could be 1 if Reza grinds it out. Could be a 5 if it's a standing affair. And Silva, Neto BJJ, who's actually he's a striker, if he's winning. So I'm going to go average that shit out and go with a 3. Moving to another fight that is very similar in that we've got a guy who's going to wrestle. We've got a guy who's going to strike. So we've got striker versus grappler kind of. Trevor Hot Sauce Smith. We got 2 hot sauces in the UFC. That's too many hot sauces.
Who's the other one? Oh, Scott Holtzman. Yeah. See, this is why Reebok sucks because you guys could have Tabasco sponsorships. They could have Frank's sponsorships. You could create a character around that.
What hot sauce would you choose as your sponsorship?
I don't know. Cayenne Kyle? I don't know.
I'm going Sriracha. Sriracha. Actually, it's Asian, isn't it? I like Sriracha, man. It's got that little bit of sweetness. So good.
There you go.
Anyway, so Chris Camozzi, if he wins, it's going to be probably a knockout on the feet. Standing, probably a kick to the dome piece. Trevor Smith wins. It's going to be Jared Rochalt type of shit happening. So I'm leaning between a 1 and a 5 once again. But Camozzi, I don't know though. Trevor Smith shaved his beard, and that could be, that could be something. But I'm going with Chris Camozzi. I think he gets the KO here. I think he does it early, and I'm going to go with a 5.
Yeah, I'll say a 4 because I'm not as excited for this as I am for Reza and Silva. And you compared the two, which I get the comparison, but there's some big differences in my opinion. Reza Madadi's super durable. Trevor Smith's not durable. And then Silva has really good takedown defense, and Camozzi doesn't have takedown defense. So this is it's the same type of stylistic matchup, but I just think they can impose their strengths on each other more easily. You know what I mean? So it's not as intriguing. And what I think happens is I think Trevor Smith, with his tendency to duck his head a lot, I think he ducks into a big knee from Camozzi and gets put out stiff. Camozzi is a guy, in my opinion, who is not a top upper echelon fighter because he's not that athletic. He doesn't have a super lethal skill set. But when you see this guy on the regional scene fight bums or fight guys without durability, he murks them. So that's my take on the fight. I think we're going to see Kamosi land a knee on Trevor Smith and get him out of there. So it's going to be a fun knockout to watch. But
fuck yeah, highlight reel level shit. And that is a 4 for you, 5 for me. Yeah, I like Chris Kamosi too. And he's got a brother named Brian, so I have to, you know, I like guys named Brian. We got a super boring first name, so we got to stick together.
You like guys who have brothers named Brian? Like, so you just like everybody.
I'm a pretty nice guy.
Friendly fella.
I'm Canadian on my level of nice.
Right on. I think so too, Brian.
Somebody who's not very nice, or at least people don't think is very nice, Alex the Spartan Nicholson. He's a heel, but people love to watch heels. This fight starts at 1 p.m. Eastern time on FS1, so you're not switching your channel from the prelims to the main card here. And he's facing Jack the Joker.
Yo. No. We got Pedro Munoz.
Oh, shit. Whoa. Well, my transition
Punisher,
sucks now, Z. Z, you ruined my transition because I was going from nice guy to I was wanting to do that so well. I could have came back to it, man. Ruining my flow.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
No, it's ruined. Pedro, the young Punisher Munoz versus Damian Webster Stasiak. Pedro Munoz going to show out. It's going to be exciting. You got it as a 6?
I'll say a 5 again. 5. Because I think this is just such a showcase for Munoz that it's not intriguing in the sense that, like, you know, I'm not thinking about who's going to win. I'm not pondering who's going to win. I'm just like, okay, it's going to be fun to watch Pedro Munoz do work on this guy. Fought at a much higher level, had a war with Jimmy Rivera, and Stasiak is a dude. I believe he lost. Did he lose to Yeltsin? Yeah, he lost to Yeltsin Mesa. So I just think this is like a guy breaking into like the real top, you know, top 6, top 5 of that division versus a guy who's skimming along the bottom. But Stasiak is a little bit unorthodox and awkward, so those type of guys can sometimes get it over on the better overall fighter. So it's interesting in that regard. But yeah, I think Pedro Munoz is going to do work.
Yeah, man, he's going to show out a little bit. Damian Stasiak, he was losing to Davey Grant, right up until he pulled out that armbar. Davey Grant is not a good fighter. Pedro Munoz, he had a super. I mean, I'm doing pure MMA math here. Munoz, Jimmy Rivera, fun, close scrap. I think Munoz is going to show out on him, and I love when people show out. And this is, you know, kind of like the tickler right before the main card starts. I'm liking it, but I'm going to stick with what'd you go with? You say?
I'll bump it up. I'll say a 7 because I am excited to watch Pedro. And you're right, like MMA math, it doesn't always work. It's not a science, but there are levels to this. You know what I mean? And I just think like Munoz is a very, very solid all-round fighter. So he's going to be fun to watch.
Yep, and probably going to get a finish. This is going to be high-paced action right up until he gets that finish. Fun times for old Pedro Munoz here. Sucks for Damian Stasiak. This fight's kind of in his backyard, right? I mean, I'm not a geometry major, but I think it's close by. Anyway.
Geometry.
Geography. Yeah, geography. It's close. See, I'm not even good at knowing which one's the deal here. Geo. I'm good at geocaching though, you know.
Oh yeah? You been around?
No, I'm not. Okay, now I'm giving her a 5. I'm giving her a 5 again. Now let's move on. Jack the Joker Hermanson versus the heel Alex the Spartan Nicholson. Basically, I'm one-sided on this, on why I want to watch the fight, and it's mostly because Alex Nicholson doesn't know how to be in boring fights. Even when he fought Smiling Sam Alvey, who's known to have some of the most boring fights ever, now, don't get me wrong, it was not exciting, but it was like a little more exciting than a normal Sam Alvey decision type of fight, and that was purely due to Alex Nicholson. He's going to throw some spinning shit out. Hermanson's going to be standing and trading a lot. This is fun. In their UFC careers, they have attempted a total of 1 takedown. No, not attempted. They've landed 1 takedown. So this is going to be another one of those fights that's on the feet. May the best man win, basically a kickboxing fight. I'm actually picking the underdog here, even though he's the heel. I kind of like the heel sometimes, but I'm excited, and I'm going to go with my first 6 of the evening.
Ooh. I'll give it a 3. I think it's a pretty. Now, before I watched this interview that I saw today, I was pretty solid on Hermanson. I think he's just going to be more active, light on his feet. It's going to be pretty much a pitter-patter striking affair, but Alex Nicholson does throw spinning shit, so he can catch guys. And like you said, he's very game, he's very aggressive. But there was an interview I saw today, MMA Junkie, I believe. And man, Nicholson is real focused for this. So sometimes you can't get an accurate read off interviews and stuff, but I had to pump the brakes on Hermanson. I think it's going to be a close fight. I really think Alex Nicholson's bringing the heat. So yeah, but it's interesting and it's going to be a fun fight the way it plays out. But for the most part, I think it's just going to be pitter patter, you know? So yeah, I give it a 3. And I'm leaning with Jack.
I think that Nicholson's going to bring that thunder, and not pitter patter. It's going to be
so light on his feet. Hermanson's so light on his feet, quicker, and the better striker technically that I think if Alex brings the heat, it's just going to be a frustrating fight to watch, though. You know what I mean? Like, I think Jack will evade him and outland him.
Yeah, maybe. And if that happens, my level of enthusiasm will be dwindled a little bit. But man, I'm thinking, do you like the heel-ness of Nicholson? Or are you just not in on the outside the cage stuff?
I'm just not in on it, man. I mean, he brings heat. He knocks out heavyweights. But yeah, I don't really care. Like, there's some guys where I like their persona. I like, I get into that a little bit, but I don't really get it from Alex too much.
How about from his homie, Mike Platinum?
Sorry?
Do you get the heat? Do you like the persona of his homie, Mike Platinum Perry?
It's funny. Like that's what I was getting into right there. But no, not really. I just think I like that these two guys train together. They're both savages. They're making their way in the UFC. That stuff interests me. But the idea that they're bad dudes or whatever, I mean, I don't know them personally, so I don't really know. You know what I mean?
I honestly don't want to know them personally, but as if they were like movie characters that I've watched and they're not like real, I like their realness. I like to boo them a little bit, and then when they win, it's like, well, that was still pretty cool that they won. So it was fun to watch. It adds a little emotion involved. Makes fights more exciting. So like betting for you adds that little bit of like, tight butthole type of stuff. Like, oh, I'm on the edge of my seat. Like the emotion for me is what drives that little bit of excitement. And so when there's a storyline a little bit.
Yeah, I got you. I mean, my butthole is never loose, so there's that. But like, but yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is if you want drama, if you want more, you want to get into the fights more, put $5 on Alex Nicholson, and you'll be cheering more than you would be. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, I suppose so. Well, let's move on to a couple of guys who don't really have storylines. Oliver Enkamp versus Nordine Taleb. This is I'm fucking real excited for the stylistic matchup of this one. We've got Enkamp, Muay Thai striker, Nordine Taleb against Eric Silva. Now I know Silva was off the juice, looking like a bum that fight, but Nordine really showed out, and I think that we're going to see a really fun standing fight here, stand and bang, right?
Is he? Honestly, I haven't looked into Oliver Enkamp. I'm pretty high on Taleb overall. So when I saw the line, I was like, I can pick Taleb and just pass, kind of avoid this fight from a betting perspective. So I haven't really looked into it, so I'm not really excited about it. But if you're telling me Enkamp's a Muay Thai striker, then yeah, this is going to be banging. I mean, he's got more submissions than he does knockouts.
Well, I just looked up his highlight reel, and a lot of what's on his highlight reel is just pure Muay Thai matches, and he's doing a lot of spinning back kicks to the body. So that's where I'm getting that.
Yeah, then it's intriguing for sure. But I mean, Taleb. What I like about Taleb is training at Tiger Muay Thai. He gets like that lethal Thailand Muay Thai, you know what I mean? But then he cross trains with TriStar, so he's also got the overall MMA game and game planning and point fighting ability of a guy from TriStar. So for me, Taleb, I like the way he strikes, very intelligent, sets things up. Again, a guy with great shot selection. He's aware of all four limbs, and I like watching him fight. So yeah, I'm excited for this one too. And I think there's a possibility that Taleb murks him. But that being said, like I said, I haven't looked into Oliver too much, so But yeah, it should be a fun scrap. But I'll say a 3 for me. I'm all over the map, eh?
Well, yeah, when you went Darren Till versus Justin Ayari, so I'm sensing a tighter than usual bet there. I'm sensing a bet. I'm sensing a bet on Darren Till versus
Hey, if you want to know what
Justin
I'm betting,
Ayari.
you gotta give me $20, bud. You gotta give me $20 or pay attention. But
Is that a
you're a clever
American?
fellow, Brian. You're a clever fellow.
I'm a fart smeller. That's right. Encamp versus Taleb. I do think that Taleb's better. I mean, like you said, there's levels to this shit, but sure, Encamp has more submissions than knockouts on his MMA record, but this is going to be a very fun fight, and I think Encamp will probably surprise a lot of people who don't know who he is because he is on the UFC's website as just being a black silhouette or whatever. I'm excited for it. I think it'll be a fun scrap, and I'm going to go with I'm going down to a 4. I'm less excited for Nicholson versus Hermanson, but the next one, this is guaranteed violence. This next fight, I think we see a little bit of star power in terms of their athleticism. And basically, Abdul Razak Al Hassan. He fights Omari Wolverine Akhmedov. Man, Al Hassan is incredibly athletic and super powerful. I think that he gets I don't know when the finish is happening, but Razak Hassan is going to get a finish here, and I'm fucking pumped about it.
Yeah, I think there's a high likelihood of that happening too. Razak, and the other thing is Razak has that sick Olympic level judo base, so it's not really like you can expect Omari to take him down to grind him. But it's an interesting matchup in the sense that Razak is so lethal early, right? That's what you expect to happen. But if Omari gets past that first round, we haven't seen Razak past that first round. So it's interesting because you want to know how Razak looks later on in the fight. And also Omari is the type of fighter to just kind of keep on trucking and just keep fighting. You know what I mean? Like I said in my prediction video, he's a prototypical Russian fighter. You know, he'll throw bombs. He can wrestle. He's well conditioned. He's tough. He's game. But with him, it's like there's nothing above that. You know, there's no lethal skill set. There's no extreme athleticism. The cardio is not phenomenal. So he's just an all-around basic good fighter, which is a great test for a finisher and a front runner like Razak. But I'm definitely leaning with an early KO for Razak Al Hassan. So I'll say this is a 7. I'm excited to watch Al Hassan Merk Akhmedov.
Yeah, me too, man. And I'm leaning towards a 7 as well. And I think that there could be a little bit of star power in Razak Al Hassan. He reminds me a lot of Mark Diakaze in that he's going to finish people early. Very athletic. Yeah, man. Fun as fuck. I'm going to go with a 7 as well. I think that I don't know. I haven't played DraftKings in a while, but I think that if you're playing DraftKings, I mean, a lot of people are probably going to play Razak Al Hassan on the DraftKings game, so maybe don't go with him. But I'm a follower, so I would put him on my team.
I'm a casual DraftKings player. I usually just throw one lineup together just for fun. So I don't really want to, give any advice on that. But yeah, I mean, I think this dude's a finisher, so he's in my lineup.
There you go. I knew it the whole time. And I haven't made a lineup in a while. It's just, I don't know. So I had like some great days where I didn't lose a single fight. I did pretty well and still like not in money contention. And I'm like, this fucking sucks.
Yeah, that's why I stick to straight bets. Straight bets, get in, get out. Did you pick the guy correctly? Nice. Was there value on the line? Nice. You know what I mean? With DraftKings, it's more of a game. I know there's some good guys out there who win consistently, and props to you. I'm not trying to take anything away from it or say that it's impossible to win, but just the way I break stuff down and like to gamble, it's more of just a fun thing on the side. Because you do have that jackpot eligibility, right? So that's always kind of interesting and intriguing.
Yeah, I mean, it is fun, and it adds a little bit of level of excitement like you do with the bets. But yeah, I just got tired of losing, even though I felt like I won. It's like, what I won, but I lost. I guess there were a couple of times where I broke even, and I was like, yay me. But
no, I got you, man. I got you. Yeah, I got you. It sucks.
Peter Sabata, Ben Killa B Saunders. I like Killa B Saunders 1. He has like a very similar logo to mine. One time he just commented on my logo I didn't I didn't tweet him first or anything like that. He just said, "Hey man, check this local out." I'm like, "Yes, what's up? We got things in common." He's a 10th planet jiu-jitsu guy. He's super exciting off of his back, and that's not normal. You know, people get put on their back. They're not normally making fights exciting, but he does with the Edgy Bravo shit. Peter Sabata, high-level jiu-jitsu as well. This is a very fun stylistic matchup, and both guys are a little bit fragile, and I don't know how old Peter Sabata is, but I feel like they are a little bit shop-worn, both of them. I'm still excited for the matchup, though. I'm going to go with like I don't want to disrespect the Killer B, but I'm going with a 5er.
Yeah, I'm going to go a bit lower than that. I'll say it's a 4. I'm a guy who likes Ben Saunders too. You know, I like guys with interesting skill sets, and his is very interesting to me because he's got like this long, rangy boxing style that's not very good. But if he can keep a guy on the outside, he's just going to keep kicking him. You know, he just keeps kicking. So that's kind of cool. You know what I mean? And you want a fighter to be active. And then on the inside, he's got wicked knees from the clinch. I think clinch striking is really going to it's going to just take over because, man, you see guys like the French kid, Duquesnoy, who landed that elbow off the break. You see like Chase Sherman land elbow from the clinch. You see DJ Mighty Mouse, you know, clinch striking phenomenally. Very entertaining, in my opinion. Not that Saunders is on that level, but just to draw a comparison. And then, like you said, he's got that rubber guard off the bottom. So if someone's striking with him, they're getting kicked. If they clinch, they're getting kneed. If they take him down, they're getting tied up and elbowed. So he's an interesting guy. However, as far as like who I'm picking to win the fight, I think Peter Sabata is a solid fighter all around, high-level jiu-jitsu. Striking has made a lot of improvements. You know, he's really coming into his own as a striker. He got tagged to the body versus Kyle Noak, but really Noak throws that kick a lot, and I think it's one of his like kind of unique weapons. So I don't really want to take too much away from Sabata for that. And Sabata's only 30, so he's 4 years younger than Ben Saunders, and Ben Saunders at 34 is a guy, in my opinion, who's just kind of leaving his prime. So there's a lot of reasons I like Sabata in this spot. And as far as like excitement level on a fight, I'll say it's a 4 because I think it plays out decision. I think both guys have their moments, but overall, you know, maybe a slow-ish paced fight that kind of goes everywhere. So just a good blend. I'll say a solid 4.
I like it. Yeah, solid 4. Killer B, he's a very original guy. Yeah, that kicking. I like when he said that he's got this long boxing style that's not very good. That was funny. Speaking of Peter Sabata and Kyle Noak, how pumped are you that rompers are back in style?
That what?
Did you see that rompers? Do you know what a romper is?
Yeah, but where did that come from? Why is that relevant?
Well, because Kyle Noak was a bodyguard for Steve Irwin.
And wore romper?
You don't know Steve Irwin?
Oh,
the crocodile hunter?
I'm picturing him now. I never paid attention to his clothes. I just looked at the animal.
Yeah, dude. He wore a romper, a fucking khaki romper all the time. Khaki romper and boots, man. There was a joke going around that the romper was where he got his power, where that's how that he could handle these that's how these animals he could handle them, because the only time he had to take it off was when he went in the ocean
when he went
and the stingray got him.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
rompers. Yeah, so that's where Peter Sabata, Kyle Noak,
get a romper, and then jump in with the salties. You'll be fine, man.
Boom. So yeah, I ordered my romper from Nordstrom the other day online, so it'll be here real soon.
I will not be wearing a romper. There are no crocodiles up in Canada. I thank the cold for that. I'm always thankful for the winter to kill the crocodiles and the big snakes and all that. So one of the reasons I like living up here. No, don't got to worry about them in the water.
Yeah, that's one reason why I think living in Nebraska is okay as well. Speaking of crocodiles, things that can grab your limbs and twist them and submit you, Misha Cirkunov.
Oh, great segment.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Woo, yeah, sweet segue. Misha Cirkunov is kind of like a 205-pound Jacare Souza, because he gets his fight to the ground. He's definitely going to submit you. On the feet, I mean, he's got maybe a little more to do than Jacare does, but he's taken on Volkan Ozdemir, who Ozdemir's a striker. So we've got striker versus grappler here, but I'm picking the Canadian transplant in Misha Serkinov, and I'm excited that. Well, while I don't think Volkan Ozdemir is very good, I don't understand why Misha Serkinov is like minus 500. I do think Misha Serkinov is going to get the victory, so I guess I'm negating myself with the odds here. I like that Misha is. We need this young blood in the top of that 205-pound division, and I think Misha is the guy. When we almost lost him to Bellator, it felt like I was feeling real tense, and I wasn't really feeling that way. I was feeling real tense and nervous about losing him. We need him in this 205-pound division. And I'm excited for that storyline. I'm excited to see somebody move up because, the next fight we're going to talk about, a couple of old dudes, been around a long time at the top of the picture. Yeah, that's all well and good. I'm all down to see John Jones versus Gustafsson again, but I'm kind of tired of that little like foursome at the top: Rumble, DC, Jones, Gus, Merp. Anyway, I'm excited for this one. I'm going with the fiver again.
Yeah, I'll say man, this excitement level thing. This is I never break down fights this way, so I don't really know how to gauge it. But as far as the fight's concerned, I'm interested in this because I really think Volkan has something for Serkinov on the feet. And what you said about you're favoring Serkinov to win the fight, but you disagree with the line, that's a valid point. Like, it's not like, you know what I mean? There's degrees of how big a favorite somebody is, right? So you can predict somebody to win, but still say the line is off, But in my opinion, I think Volkan has something for Misha on the feet because Misha's a little slow. He's a little stiff. He's a little one shot at a time type of guy. And he tends to slow down too. So if he, for whatever reason, strikes with Volkan, I think Volkan outlands him and starts to tire him with the pressure, with the volume, with the shot selection. Again, he's a guy who throws good technical strikes. But yeah, I just can't trust Volkan to stop a takedown, and I don't see any reason why Misha wouldn't go for a takedown here. He's an absolute bull of a man, not a Jacare, in my opinion, not that level of grappler, but he's going to grab a limb and probably submit Volkan. So yeah, my prediction is going to be Misha Serkinov submission. Land takedown, submit him probably in round 1. Maybe they strike for a bit and Misha starts getting dinged up and then goes to the grappling. So yeah, I'll say this is a good 6. I'll say, like, I'm excited to see how this plays out. Like you said, I think Misha's the young blood of the division. Not that I really mind having a little like the top 4 or 5 guys kind of stay there for a while, because back in the day we had like Chuck, Randy, Vitor, Vanderlei, Tito. Like, that was make like the big 5 rather in light heavyweight. So I don't really mind those kind of little clusters of top level guys, but it is time for some new blood, some new guys to rise up, and I think Misha's the guy. But by the same token, like you said, I think he's a little bit overhyped, so I don't justify the line, or I can't justify the line rather. But yeah, I'll say a solid 6 and Misha by sub.
I gotta defend my.
But I will say when we were gonna lose Misha to Bellator, I was like, I wasn't too worried. The fact that we lost Kyoji to Rizin and we lost Larkin to Bellator, those shocked me. Like, those were top level fighters, exciting fighters in their prime, and the UFC let them go. I've never seen the UFC do that before. You know what I mean? That was really big. Over the hill guys, sure. Guys who don't have a big name or aren't top level yet, sure, they lose those type of guys. But Larkin and Kyoji, that was a big turning point in my opinion. Now I was like, okay, free agency is a real thing. Like, top level fighters can leave the UFC,
How do you feel about the possibility of losing Gegard Mousasi? Because he said, was it on UFC tonight, last night? He said the UFC's offer was garbage and he wasn't going to accept it.
Yeah, I mean, it would be fitting for Gegard kind of though, because Gegard's like a well-traveled, fought everywhere, likes to rack up wins type of guy. It would suck. Like, that's on the same level as Larkin and Kyoji though. So yeah, I think it would be real bad for the UFC to let him go. Like, he's a top contender, world-class fighter. And like, this idea that he's not, like, I don't know why they're not pushing him more. Like, I have a magazine from like back in, I think it was like an 2009 magazine with him on the cover as like, this dude's legit, this guy's coming through, and he's still young. So like, experienced fighter, young, exciting skill set. It would really suck to lose him in the UFC, but I think it kind of fits his character, right? So that's, I don't know, going both ways there.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, like you said, he's a world traveler. He's been in a lot of different divisions, but we need him because, like you said earlier, with your imitation of him, he would beat Michael Bisping, man. We're talking about losing a guy who could potentially be the champion. He did get submitted by Jacare, but he's right there on the cusp. I want to see him against guys like Yoel, Bobby Knuckles, Mike, all of that. And if we lose him, he's going to fight Linton Vassell. Well, I mean, no, not Linton Vassell. He's going to be facing guys like
who's a Bellator middleweight, right?
Well, Rory thinks he's going to be 2 division, so we could see that. That could be a fun fight.
Is Mamed Khabilov? Is Mamed Khabilov is that guy a middleweight? I think he is, right?
I forget.
Over in KSW.
Hold on one second.
That's a good fight, yo.
I gotta Google something quick.
Yeah, that's a good fight for Gegard outside the UFC. Gegard and Mamed.
Rafael Carvalho. God, I can't think of the Russian guy that does a lot of spinning back fists that tested hot for PEDs even on
Shlemenko? Alexander Shlemenko?
Yeah, that guy. I like him. Let's see him versus Gegard. That's the 185er?
Yeah. That'd be fun.
Anyway, dude.
I mean, there's always going to be like a couple fights outside the UFC, right? But of course, I think just like we were talking about having the titles mean something, the UFC, those 3 letters should mean these are the best fighters in the world. You know, besides maybe 1 or 2 other guys outside that for whatever reason we can't get. But letting top talent go, it's a slippery slope in my opinion, because then you've given away value, and now another organization has value. You know what I mean? So now they have more leverage to draw more guys in, and then, you know, not that that's a bad thing as far as the MMA landscape or anything. Like, I really don't care, but I like that all the best fighters in the world are in the same organization and can fight each other.
I don't get the hesitation to pay Gegard. I mean, he's clearly marketable if they just chose to do so. He's showing that he has some microphone skills on these interviews lately when he's being Gegard Mousasi. While we're not paying him what he deserves, but we're over here paying Super Sage Northcutt way more than he deserves. We're over here paying CM Punk, whatever. You know, I don't understand what the UFC's doing. I don't like. When we've talked about it a lot, we shouldn't beat a dead horse, but the current landscape in the UFC with the WME, IMG, and these super fights and whatever's going on, we need to nip it in the bud.
I agree, and I think like you get a guy like, or you get, you know, you can't just make the fight that sells the most. When a fight that sells a lot comes about, that's awesome, and capitalize on it. But there should be some kind of order to this to maintain that these are the best fighters in the world. The champion is the best guy in the world because he beat the last best guy. You know what I mean? Like, but just making the fight that sells the most, you're gonna end up with the, like, Bradley Cooper versus, you know, The Rock. You know, because everyone would tune into that. Let's just put some gloves on those guys and let them fight. You know.
Dwayne Johnson minus 3,000.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I just whatever names came to my head, but like, you know what I'm saying, right? Like,
yeah. No, I get it.
There should be order to it.
The reason I started watching the UFC was because I wanted to know who the best fighter in the world was. I mean, it's fun to talk about. So you have comic book characters where you're like, oh, would Batman beat Superman? You know, would the Flash beat blah blah blah? This is really fucking happening. This really fucking happens. I used to watch WWE back in the day, and you'd say who would win in a real fight. This shit really happens.
That's why I don't watch WWE, because I can watch it for real. You know what I mean?
Right.
And one thing to touch on there too is you said characters, and I think what the Reebok deal, like I was kind of mentioning with the hot sauce shit, like these guys had their own sponsors, unique looking shorts. They become more individualized and they become characters. Like Rampage with the chain, Chuck with the ice shorts. Like they became kind of larger than life characters once they got to a certain level in the sport. And I just think that's something that the UFC should try to harbor, try to bring back more of. You know?
And we can still have Reebok as a sponsor. Just have Reebok make the custom fucking cool shorts. Have them.
Yeah.
allow them to wear a gorilla mask as they walk to the octagon or whatever the fuck they want to do, a Spartan helmet, but they're not allowed to do that shit. Let me wear a fucking goofy looking Reebok shirt. It could be, Ed Hardy type of shirt, but throw a Reebok logo on it.
They should be able to design their stuff.
Why the fuck
not?
This
is Reebok made, designed by the fighters if they want to do that, and then you sell that shirt or whatever, but don't have it like just a blanket. Exactly.
Fuck. We need to be on the marketing
Fight Nerds podcast, Brian.
I'm calling them right now.
We're making moves.
I'm calling the UFC right now. We're getting on the marketing team. It's busy. I don't know. Someone else is calling. Fucking a lot of people have these ideas, I guess. It's so busy.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the last fight of the night. Alexander the Mauler Gustafsson versus Glover the Rainbow Teixeira. This is a fun fight because it could possibly be a #1 contender fight. It's two of the not most well-known fighters in the light heavyweight division, but certainly household names among even like semi-hardcore fans, just on the outer cusp of hardcore fandom. These guys are known. I've got some cousins, friends, know who both of these guys are because they fought John Jones, basically, is why they know each of them. And for the character, the storyline, this fight is super exciting. And for the stylistic matchup, I think that it presents some fun things as well. Glover is good at jiu-jitsu. Gustafsson has solid takedown defense. Glover hits super hard, but only throws like one combination. Gustafsson, super durable. It has that length advantage, moves a lot. Neither guy looked great in their last fight, respectively. Fun things all around. I'm super excited about it. Now, this isn't like a 10 on a pay-per-view. This isn't, like, for me, Conor McGregor, Nate Diaz, that shit's a 10. Anderson Silva versus a paper sack, that is a 10. This one's an 8.
I agree. It's a solid 8. It's a good main event. As far as, where, like you said, these guys are both household names. So, in my opinion, I would rather, let's look at the card in total, right? It's a hardcore fans card. Like, hardcores are going to watch, like you and I and probably people watching this. But I don't know why you waste a great fight, Gus versus Glover. It's got a lot of title implications. It's going to be a good matchup. Like you said, everybody knows this. I would rather see this as like the co-main or the third fight down on a stacked pay-per-view. I think what the UFC should do is, for these type of shows, commit to it being a B-level UFC show, and then save this headliner for a stacked pay-per-view, like tent pole events with like tons of jacked fights on it. What do you think about that?
I think that makes complete sense. Maybe Gustafsson is here. Well, he probably requested to fight at home. 1, 2. They wanted to put asses in the seats, so that's the second. They want to sell out. What is it? The O2 Arena again?
No, it's in Stockholm, man. Or is that the O2? I thought the O2 was in Ireland.
I thought the O2 was Stockholm, because isn't that where Gus got knocked out by Rumble?
Could be. I don't know. I don't pay attention to where the arenas are at.
No, it said the Ericsson Globe, so maybe the O2 is not there. I don't know geometry or geography. But anyway, maybe they just put him on here so he could sell tickets in his hometown. But I agree, the matchup should have been at UFC 210.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But as far as the fight goes down, I think it's a great stylistic fight for Alexander to play the matador, to be light on his feet, move back, pop Glover with that jab, utilize his height, his reach. I think one of the reasons that people think Gus looked bad against Yan was because Yan kind of just stood there and looked for counters. And I'm not sure Glover's going to do that with Glover's style of it's all this. It's little steps forward. Like, he's always like walking you down, trying to look for those shots. And that kind of plays into Gus's game of moving backwards and pick and poke, be evasive, be long. So I just think that it's a good stylistic matchup for Gus. But Glover is such a real fighter, definitely high level, definitely a born fighter, huge power, well-rounded, good strong wrestling, good jiu-jitsu. But on the flip side, Gustafsson, you could say the same thing about him. Obviously a born fighter. He's experienced in his own right. Good wrestler. It's not like he's one-dimensional. Perhaps he was back in the day, but he's a guy student of the game, shored up those holes, made improvements where he needed to, did the necessary things to improve his game overall. So it's just a really fun fight. And like you said, with Gustafsson being at home and he gets a chance to kind of redeem himself from that Rumble fight, it's interesting. And I understand why they use Gustafsson as a headliner in Sweden. I get that. But just looking at the card in total, like if they want to put on a big show in Sweden, I would say provide a more stacked card. You know what I mean? I think the UFC, it's this weird time right now where like they want to be the big show, but they have so many events that things get spread thin. Whereas I think if they split and had like the UFC B level on Fight Pass or on free TV, and then big pay-per-view events with like the big names, I would like to see that separation of events. But I digress. I think it's a good fight. I think it's an 8 as far as entertainment value, and I'm picking Gus to win via picking Glover apart.
I agree. I'm picking Gus as well. I put out my video, prediction video a couple of days ago. I just do main events and co-main events if the co-main event is big enough for MMA Mania. But I have some questions about Gus and hesitation for picking him. One, I mean, it's mostly intangibles or stuff that's outside the cage, but he recently had a son. And I hear a lot of fighters say that strengthens them. I don't believe that shit at all. 2, Gus is coming off of a back surgery, a long layoff. And Gus has taken a lot of damage in his 21-fight UFC career. Now, Glover doesn't have a great chin. He got flatlined by Rumble. But I just question the durability. I mean, Gus is really durable. He's known for having a really good chin. But we see at time these guys that have really good chins, they've taken some beatings, they've been in some wars. Eventually, that shit's going to break. Gus against Jones. JDS. Yeah, JDS. Yeah, exactly. Perfect example. I mean, Diego Sanchez, he'd never been stopped. He got stopped against I Quinta. He got stopped against Joe Lozon. I mean, that shit breaks eventually. Gus, it was fun as fuck. But against John Jones, super fun against Daniel Cormier. But he got damaged a lot in both of those. Against Rumble Johnson, the TKO where he took quite a few too many shots afterward, considered retirement. I think that eventually Gus's durability is going to fall off. Do I think it's going to be on Sunday? No, but it's just something that I want to think about. And also, last thing, there was an interview that Gus did with champions.co. I think Justin Golightly, Secret Moves, works for them. Did an interview with, I want to say it was Jim Edwards. But Gus says that he not only trains with Manoa, I believe, but he brought in some other guys that are similar body style to Glover and hit in similar ways as Glover. And he said they were hitting him hard in training. I don't know if that means he was sparring or whatever. But at this stage in Gus's career, why the fuck are you sparring? Why are you having guys that hit as hard as Glover hit you as hard as Glover? He should be doing, I call it the Robbie Lawler way, where no fucking sparring, bro.
Yeah. Yo, Masvidal is the same way. Masvidal's a guy. He said like they still spar. You still got to spar. You can't cut it out completely, in my opinion, unless you're fighting very, very frequently. But like Masvidal did a lot of like reaction drills and hand-eye coordination drills just to stay sharp. That's what these guys at this level, I think that's what they should be focusing on. Very limited sparring. Obviously, I'm just a
we're armchair quarterback.
I'm no professional coach. Yeah, I'm doing that. But like, so granted, if you train fighters and you have a better way, cool. But like, in my opinion, you just want to stay sharp. You don't want to incur more damage in the gym. You know what I mean? So yeah, I agree with you. That's troubling to hear.
Yeah. But I am picking Gus. I don't think that whatever I said is going to happen with the drop off of his durability or anything is going to happen on Sunday. But I don't know. I'm just planting the seed of doubt for myself, and I'm thinking about it going forward. And, you mentioned we're not trainers. If somebody knows a better way to train their fighters, then do that. Well, of course, this is a podcast for entertainment purposes only. I'm not coaching anybody. Just people are here to hear opinions. I don't just
here to talk some shit, Brian.
That's right. But try to be clean about it. At the same time, there's no children that are watching this or listening to this, but something to keep in mind. Do you think that Gus did you say Gus via decision?
I don't know. I don't know. You said Glover has a bad chin. I don't think he has a bad chin. I don't. like Rumble knocking you out is just what happens when you get hit by Rumble. You know what I mean? So both of them, it's tough to say. I think this goes late. I'm gonna say it goes probably into the 4th round. I'm not sure if somebody gets finished past there. If someone gets finished early, I think it's Glover landed that left hook and put Gus out. But I think what's gonna happen is Gustafsson wins the long game and perhaps finishes late, but I really don't know.
You said you think it goes past 4 rounds, you say?
I think it goes to the 4th round because I think the way Gustafsson's going to be evasive, there won't be a lot of crazy exchanges. And the way that Glover is so short-ranged, I think, I don't think he's going to be able to get to Gus, and Gus is just going to play the Matador very well and win the rounds, pick and poking him.
Yeah, I think it goes to a decision. So over 2.5, it doesn't look terrible at right now, even though, I'm not a tout. I'm not going to tout anything, but -150 doesn't seem terrible to me. And starts around, nope. Yeah, over 2.5 doesn't seem too bad to me. Anyway, so Z, check out our numbers on how excited we are to watch this fight card. So I added the totals up and I averaged them.
No.
I am 56, you are 62, which comes down to an average of you are 5.16 and I'm 4.6 on level of excitement on average for the whole card, which would be like a C-. No, that's not even a C-. That's like, it's a D. That's a D.
Really? See, I'm figuring out the scale though, so
yeah, me too.
I mean, some slag with that. I my scale, I don't know. This judging things by excitement level is different.
For me, there's never going to be a 10 card. That's like impossible. An 8 overall card, that would be like UFC 199, UFC 201 territory. So I would say this is a C level if I'm scaling it on a curve.
Yeah. No, I say it's a C. I think that's fair. That's fair. But like I said before, I think if the UFC committed to this being a C-level card, we would see a lot more A's. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I wanted to touch on that. If we had there were guys that were just pay-per-view guys, and we had guys that were Fox Sports 1 free TV guys, what would your way to be to get those guys? See, you need a way to pull people over to the pay-per-view. If there are people that are always on free TV and there are guys that are always on pay-per-view, the people that don't purchase pay-per-views would never know who any of the people on pay-per-view were. So what are you doing? Taking the main event winners from free TV, sending them over to pay-per-view?
Well, as fighters win on Fight Pass cards and as they win on free TV cards, they would increase their rank, and then you would have the higher ranked fighters on the pay-per-views. So you would see a guy come through. Hardcores who have Fight Pass and watch the Fight Pass events would see guys coming in. That's what I would want to do. That's what I think a lot of hardcore fans would want to use Fight Pass for. Then the free TV shows like the middle of the pack, some intriguing matchups, some banging fights, and then as you move on to the pay-per-view, like fighters would move through the three levels of event. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very similar to it's very similar to what we have now, except for you're moving Gus and Teixeira onto pay-per-view rather than being on this free TV. You'd still leave Ozdemir Surkanov on this free TV show, right?
Oh yeah. Even though Volkan's ranked number 5.
Right, which is garbage. Again, we need to work on those rankings. Anyway, I think that we need to close out the show. Talked for about an hour and 45 minutes. So Z, tell the fans where they can find you.
Sure, I've got a YouTube channel myself. It's called Z's MMA. I break down the card in like 20 minutes from a betting perspective, top to bottom. I run through it. You can follow me on Twitter at Rockstarzee, and I'm also a tout. So if you want to know exactly what I'm betting on and perhaps go to rockstarzee.caprotech.com or betmma.tips/rockstarzee. You pay me $20 and you find out exactly what I'm betting on for that event. And I think I have a really good bet.
$20 per event?
Sorry?
So did you say $20 per event?
Yeah, $20 per event, regardless of how many bets I have on the card. But this one, I mean, it should be obvious. You know what I mean? Like I break the card down in similar fashion on my channel. If you watch this content, you probably know what I'm betting on. You know what my predictions are. If you want to use my opinion and make your own bets, that's cool. But really, you should be able to tell who I'm betting on this card. And I really think I'm very confident in that matchup. I think it's going to cash.
And you were saying something else. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, that was it, man.
Okay.
Z's
Yeah,
MMA on YouTube, Rockstarzee on Caprotech, Bet MMA Tips, and Twitter. And yeah, it is what it is.
I will put links to his Twitter and YouTube in the comment section down below, and those other links you can find by getting at him on Twitter. And I'm Flyin Brian J. You can follow me on Twitter at Flyin Brian J. Like me over on Facebook. It's flyinbrianj.facebook.com, and anywhere you want to follow me, just put flyinbrianj. Whatever the fuck you want to do, and then like Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube, Untapped. What am I missing? All that stuff. Put that in the middle, and then .com, and that's where I'm at. You can find me there. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. Thank you again. Thanks a lot for joining me, Z. I know it was last minute, so I really appreciate you coming on, and this is sincere.
No problem, man. It was fun. It was a fun discussion. It's interesting because I'm always breaking stuff down from a betting perspective. So to go from a fan perspective was refreshing. So thank you for having me.
No problem. So listeners, thanks again for joining us, and we will see you. I'll see you on MMA Mania's Facebook page before the event. I will do the preamble. It's a pre-fight show, and then immediately after the event, I will be doing a post-fight show right after whatever European announcer interviews the winner of the main event. Until next time, namaste.